In the serene suburbs of Seattle, the Hendersons had long been the epitome of success and contentment. Their home, a grand colonial-style house nestled in a tree-lined street, stood as a testament to their seemingly perfect life. Kate Henderson, a 42-year-old former journalist turned stay-at-home mom, was known for her warm smile and charitable work. Her husband, Robert Henderson, a 45-year-old successful investment banker, was admired for his career achievements and dedication to his family. Together with their teenage daughter, Lily, the Hendersons were considered the ideal family. Kate and Robert's life appeared flawless to the outside world. Their daughter Lily, at just 17, was an honor student with a promising future. She had a natural charm that drew people to her, and she excelled in both academics and extracurricular activities. The family was frequently seen at local charity events, community gatherings, and weekend outings. They were the embodiment of suburban perfection. Yet beneath the surface, cracks had begun to appear. Kate, despite her outward cheerfulness, was struggling with feelings of isolation. The demands of maintaining their social image and dealing with Robert's long hours at work left her feeling neglected and unfulfilled. Her once vibrant social life had dwindled, leaving her with a growing sense of disconnection. Robert, while devoted to his family, was increasingly absorbed by his career. His work often kept him away from home late into the evening, leaving Kate to manage the household and care for Lily on her own. Their marriage, once passionate, had settled into a routine of polite conversation and distant companionship. The pressures of maintaining their lifestyle and social status weighed heavily on them both. Lily, too, was not immune to the strains of their seemingly perfect life. Beneath her confident exterior, she was wrestling with her own demons. The pressures of academic excellence and the expectations placed on her were beginning to take their toll. Though she often smiled and engaged with her peers, she felt isolated from her parents and burdened by their high expectations. The Hendersons' fragile equilibrium was shattered on an overcast Monday morning. Kate was preparing breakfast when she received a call from the police. The voice on the other end was calm but somber as they informed her that Lily had been found dead in their garden. The words hit Kate like a sledgehammer, leaving her breathless and numb. When Kate and Robert arrived at the scene, their once perfect world collapsed into chaos. Lily's body was discovered lying among the meticulously maintained flower beds, her lifeless form a stark contrast to the vibrant blooms. The garden, once a symbol of their family's joy, was now tainted with tragedy. The police quickly began their investigation. The initial examination suggested that Lily had died by suicide, but Kate was not convinced. She was determined to find out what had really happened to her daughter. Her mind raced with a mix of grief and suspicion. The notion that Lily could have ended her life seemed inconceivable to Kate. Lily had always been so full of life, so promising. There had to be more to the story. As the investigation unfolded, Kate began to focus on her neighbors, who had always seemed like an integral part of their idyllic community. The Thompsons, the PTA president, and her husband had been frequent fixtures in their social circle. Mrs. Thompson, Nancy, was an elegant woman in her early 50s, known for her involvement in numerous charity events. Her husband, Henry, a local contractor, was a burly man in his mid-50s with a reputation for being both hardworking and gruff. Then there was the high school football coach, Greg Carter. In his early 40s, Greg was a charismatic figure who had a knack for getting along with everyone. He was a pillar of the community, frequently seen at local events and games, often accompanied by his supportive wife, Linda, a stay-at-home mother in her late 30s. The neighborhood also included Daniel and Laura Richmond, a couple who had recently moved in. Daniel was a wealthy businessman in his mid-40s with a reputation for being charming and influential. Laura, his wife, was a former model in her early 40s, known for her beauty and sophistication. Despite their outward charm, there was an air of mystery around them, a sense that they were hiding something beneath their polished exterior. As Kate began to probe deeper into the lives of her neighbors, she uncovered troubling hints that suggested their perfect facades might be hiding significant problems. Nancy Thompson's frequent, unexplained absences from community events raised eyebrows, while whispers about Henry's questionable business practices circulated among local gossip. Greg Carter's behavior was equally puzzling. Though he was well-liked, there were murmurs about his increasing temper and strained relationships with some of the students. Linda Carter, though seemingly devoted, appeared increasingly withdrawn and distant. The Richmonds, though newer to the neighborhood, had quickly gained attention. Kate had heard rumors about Daniel's supposed extramarital affairs and Laura's obsessive need for social validation. While these were just rumors, they planted seeds of doubt in Kate's mind. The discovery of Lily's body was not just a personal tragedy, but a catalyst that disrupted the apparent normalcy of their suburban life. Kate's grief quickly morphed into a desperate quest for answers. The suddenness of Lily's death, combined with the nagging feeling that something was amiss, drove Kate to investigate further. The police investigation had concluded Lily's death as a suicide, but Kate could not reconcile this with her daughter's vibrant personality and seemingly stable life. Driven by a mixture of maternal instinct and mounting suspicion, Kate began to scrutinize the lives of those around her more closely. In the coming days, Kate would delve into the secrets of her neighbors, discovering that beneath the surface of their pristine lives lay a tangled web of deceit and betrayal. The tragedy that had shattered her family would uncover a far-reaching conspiracy, one that would reveal the dark side of the seemingly perfect suburban paradise they had all called home. Kate's journey to uncover the truth had only just begun, setting the stage for a tumultuous and revealing investigation that would change everything she thought she knew about her community and her daughter's life. Kate Henderson's obsession with uncovering the truth about Lily's death drove her deeper into the labyrinth of her seemingly perfect neighborhood. The more she learned about her neighbors, the clearer it became that their outward appearances masked deeper, darker secrets. Her determination to find answers grew, fueled by a combination of grief and suspicion. One evening, while sifting through Lily's belongings in her room, Kate came across a diary that Lily had kept hidden. Flipping through its pages, she found detailed entries about her daughter's struggles and her secret relationship with Daniel Richmond. Lily had written about Daniel's manipulative behavior and the threatening messages he sent her when she started to demand more from him. Kate was taken aback by the revelation. She had noticed Daniel and Laura Richmond only in passing, but now she saw them in a different light. Lily's diary depicted Daniel as a man who was not only unfaithful but also increasingly desperate and volatile. The entries detailed arguments between Lily and Daniel and a growing sense of fear from Lily, who had felt trapped by her own demands and Daniel's threats. Determined to confront the truth, Kate began observing Daniel's movements. She discovered that Daniel had been meeting with Lily in secluded locations around town, including a small, rented cabin on the outskirts of Seattle. One afternoon, Kate decided to follow him, hoping to find more evidence. She trailed him discreetly, her heart racing as they drove to the cabin. From her hiding spot, Kate watched as Daniel arrived at the cabin and was met by Lily. The sight of them together confirmed the affair but also revealed a heated argument. Through a crack in the cabin's window, Kate overheard snippets of their conversation. Lily was demanding that Daniel end his marriage and be with her, while Daniel was adamant about keeping their relationship secret and threatened Lily with consequences if she did not comply. The confrontation ended with Lily storming out, visibly upset. Kate's heart sank as she realized how deeply Lily had been entangled in this toxic relationship. But as Kate prepared to leave, she nearly got caught. She was almost spotted by Daniel when he came outside to make a phone call. Kate quickly hid behind some bushes, her breath catching in her throat as she watched Daniel return inside, unaware of her presence. As Kate continued her investigation, she started to notice other peculiar behaviors. Laura Richmond, Daniel's wife, appeared increasingly anxious and withdrawn. Kate saw Laura pacing outside her home one evening, her phone pressed to her ear as she spoke in hushed tones. Laura seemed to be on edge, and Kate couldn't shake the feeling that she was hiding something. Determined to dig deeper, Kate followed Laura discreetly one day. Laura drove to a small, upscale hotel and checked in under a different name. Kate's curiosity got the better of her, and she managed to sneak into the hotel lobby, where she saw Laura's name on the registry. She realized that Laura was secretly meeting someone. The following day, Kate learned that Laura had been seen frequently at the hotel, often in the company of Greg Carter, the high school football coach. This revelation was shocking. Greg had always seemed to be a pillar of the community, and his involvement with Laura suggested an affair that could further complicate the web of deceit surrounding Lily's death. As Kate delved into the affair between Laura and Greg, she found evidence of jealousy and paranoia. Greg, while charming on the surface, had a reputation for being controlling. Rumors circulated about his volatile temper and the way he wielded his influence over students and parents alike. Laura, meanwhile, seemed to be driven by fear and desperation, her secret meetings with Greg hinting at a relationship fraught with tension and manipulation. One evening, Kate witnessed an intense argument between Laura and Greg in a secluded part of the park. Laura was visibly upset, and Greg's anger was palpable. They were shouting, and the confrontation became physical. Kate was close enough to hear snippets of their conversation, revealing that Laura had been threatened by Greg, who had warned her to keep quiet or face dire consequences. The argument ended with Greg storming off, leaving Laura in tears. Kate, who had been hidden nearby, almost stepped forward to confront Laura, but hesitated, not wanting to reveal her presence or jeopardize her investigation. Kate's relentless pursuit of the truth led her to a series of near misses. During one of her surveillance missions, she was almost caught by Gray while he was leaving a bar late at night. Her car was parked just a few spaces away from his, and she had to remain perfectly still and silent as Greg approached. Her heart pounded as she watched him from behind the tinted windows of her vehicle, barely escaping his notice. Similarly, Laura became increasingly paranoid, sensing that someone was watching her. Kate noticed Laura's erratic behavior. She would frequently check behind her as she walked and seemed unnerved by any sudden noise. This growing paranoia made Laura more unpredictable, and Kate had to be extra cautious to avoid detection. In her pursuit, Kate also learned about the complicated dynamics between her other neighbors. Nancy Thompson, the PTA president, had been struggling with her own issues. Rumors of a secret affair between Nancy and Henry, her husband, were more than just gossip. They were rooted in truth. Henry's unfaithfulness had become a topic of whispered conversations among the community, and Kate discovered evidence of their strained marriage. Nancy's attempts to cover up Henry's indiscretions included attempts to bribe or intimidate potential informants. Kate had a close call when she was nearly caught snooping around Nancy's house. Nancy had spotted her car parked outside and approached, forcing Kate to quickly drive away before she could be questioned. The investigation revealed a network of deceit, jealousy, and hidden relationships. Kate's quest for answers was not just about uncovering the truth about Leslie's death, but also about understanding the deep-rooted issues within her seemingly perfect community. Her observations revealed a pattern of betrayal and secrecy that intertwined the lives of her neighbors in a web of lies. As Kate pieced together the fragments of information, she found herself more isolated from her own family. Her obsession with solving Lily's death had driven a wedge between her and Robert, who was increasingly frustrated with her single-minded pursuit. Their arguments grew more frequent, fueled by Kate's growing paranoia and Robert's resentment over her disregard for their family's well-being. Kate was on the brink of a breakthrough, but with each discovery came new challenges. The risk of exposure was high, and she had to navigate the treacherous waters of suburban secrets while dealing with her own emotional turmoil. The more she uncovered, the more she realized that the truth about Lily's death was just the tip of the iceberg, and the true extent of her neighbor's secrets was far more complex and dangerous than she had ever imagined. In this tense atmosphere of deceit and betrayal, Kate's investigation continued to unearth hidden truths and personal betrayals, pushing her closer to a confrontation with the dark forces lurking behind the facade of suburban perfection. As Kate Henderson dug deeper into the web of secrets surrounding Lily's death, she realized that the complexities of her neighbors' lives were more interconnected and perilous than she had initially imagined. The tension among the key players in the unfolding drama had reached a boiling point. One cold, rainy night, Kate's investigation led her to a climactic confrontation between two of the primary figures in her unraveling mystery, Daniel Richmond and Laura Carter. Kate had followed Laura to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town after discovering her frequent visits there. She had learned that Laura was meeting Daniel to discuss their involvement in the affair and the increasingly dangerous situation surrounding them. Inside the dimly lit warehouse, Kate hid behind a stack of old crates, her heart pounding as she observed the scene unfolding before her. Laura and Daniel were in the midst of a heated argument. Laura was visibly distressed, her face pale and eyes wide with fear. Daniel's rage was palpable as he paced back and forth, his voice raised in a harsh, accusatory tone. "You promised me you'd handle this," Laura shouted, her voice cracking with desperation. "You said this wouldn't end like this." "I'm doing the best I can," Daniel roared back, his frustration evident. "But you're the one who's making everything worse. Your jealousy and paranoia are driving us both to the edge." As the argument escalated, Kate watched in horror as the situation took a violent turn. Laura, trembling with fear and anger, suddenly grabbed a metal pipe that had been lying on the floor. In a fit of panic, she swung it at Daniel, her face a mask of terror and desperation. Daniel, caught off guard, stumbled back, but his instinct was to defend himself. He grabbed a nearby wrench, and the confrontation turned into a chaotic struggle. The warehouse echoed with the sounds of their fight as they clashed, each blow more frantic and desperate than the last. In the midst of the struggle, a loud crash reverberated through the warehouse. Kate, still hidden behind the crates, watched in shock as Laura, in a moment of pure panic, swung the pipe with all her strength. The pipe struck Daniel's head with a sickening thud, sending him collapsing to the ground. The warehouse fell silent, save for the heavy breathing of the two combatants. Laura stood over Daniel's motionless body, her eyes wide with horror. Her hands shook as she dropped the pipe and fell to her knees beside him. Her breath came in ragged gasps, and she stared at Daniel, who was now unconscious and bleeding profusely. The reality of what had happened began to sink in, and Laura's face was a mask of shock and guilt. Kate, witnessing the entire scene from her hiding place, knew she had to act quickly. She stepped out of her hiding spot, but as she did, Laura glanced up, her eyes meeting Kate's in a moment of recognition and terror. "What have I done?" Laura whispered, her voice trembling. "Oh God, what have I done?" Panic overtook Laura. She grabbed her phone and dialed 911, her hands trembling uncontrollably as she begged for help. While she waited for the authorities to arrive, she frantically tried to clean up the scene, mopping up the blood and attempting to hide the evidence of the violent confrontation. Kate, realizing the gravity of the situation, retreated into the shadows, her mind racing. She had to find a way to expose the truth without compromising her own safety. She left the warehouse and headed back to her home, torn between the urgency to inform the authorities and the fear of being implicated in the crime. The police arrived at the warehouse to find Laura in a state of shock and Daniel severely injured. The scene was a mess of blood and discarded items. Laura was taken into custody, and Daniel was rushed to the hospital. The initial investigation suggested that Laura had acted in a fit of rage, but the full details of the confrontation were unclear. Kate, feeling the weight of her own role in the drama, decided to come forward with what she had witnessed. She contacted the police and provided a statement, detailing the argument she had overheard and the violent struggle that had ensued. Her account, however, was met with skepticism. Without concrete evidence and due to her own involvement in the investigation, Kate's credibility was questioned. As the investigation progressed, it became clear that Laura's actions had been driven by a mixture of fear, jealousy, and panic. Her affair with Daniel had been fraught with tension, and the confrontation had escalated into a tragic accident. Laura's defense team argued that she had acted out of self-defense and in a state of extreme emotional distress. The trial was a media sensation, with the case drawing significant attention due to its dramatic nature and the high-profile individuals involved. Laura was charged with aggravated assault, and the courtroom was filled with reporters, family members, and curious onlookers. During the trial, Kate testified about the events she had witnessed. Her testimony provided a crucial piece of the puzzle, revealing the volatile nature of the argument and the circumstances leading up to the violent confrontation. However, the defense argued that Laura's actions were a result of provocation and not premeditated. The prosecution painted a picture of a woman consumed by jealousy and paranoia, whose actions had led to a near-fatal outcome. Laura's emotional state and the circumstances of the night were scrutinized, but the defense successfully argued that she had acted impulsively, without intent to kill. In a dramatic and emotional closing statement, Laura took the stand, tearfully recounting her fear and desperation. She expressed her remorse and pleaded for leniency, claiming that the violence had been an unintended consequence of her struggle to protect herself from Daniel's aggression. The jury deliberated for several days before reaching a verdict. Laura was found guilty of manslaughter, a charge that reflected the unintended nature of Daniel's injuries but acknowledged the severe consequences of her actions. The court took into account her emotional distress and lack of prior criminal history in sentencing. Laura was sentenced to 10 years in prison, a sentence that reflected both the gravity of the incident and the recognition of her unstable mental state. The judge's decision was met with mixed reactions from the public and the victims' families. Kate, though relieved that some measure of justice had been served, felt a profound sense of sadness. The events had unraveled not only the lives of those directly involved, but also had shattered the illusion of the idyllic suburban life she once knew. The neighborhood was left to grapple with the consequences of hidden secrets and the impact of the violence that had erupted from beneath its polished surface. In the aftermath, Kate found herself reflecting on the cost of uncovering the truth. The investigation had revealed the deep flaws and hidden tensions within her community, but it had also come at a personal cost. The relationships she once held dear had been strained, and the facade of normalcy had been irrevocably broken. As she walked through the now quiet streets of her neighborhood, Kate pondered the fragility of appearances and the dark undercurrents that often lay hidden beneath the surface. The perfect suburban life she had once embraced had given way to a stark and unsettling reality, and the echoes of that night would continue to haunt her long after the courtroom had fallen silent.